Good afternoon. We're ready for our next session. I'm Lori Kay from Monsters Made with Love and a member of the Mayor's Maker Council. I'm happy to introduce Catherine Porth from Let Her Speak and Frank Ramey, a Knoxville business advisor. They're teaming up to give us e-commerce insight and offer suggestions to help us make our websites as shoppable as possible. Please join me in welcoming Catherine Porth and Frank Ramey.
So today, our main goal for you in making this workshop is to make sure that you leave today with at least one simple action step that you can take to make your site as shoppable as possible and earn more sales. Because that's the main point of it, right? Is that you get the word out. All of this work, you create all of these beautiful things, and then hopefully other people connect with your work as much as you do, to the point where they want to become a supporter of your work. So as I mentioned, my name is Catherine Porth. I am the founder of Let Her Speak, and I also am a consultant that helps with nonprofits and small businesses in their insights and turning those insights into actions that you can take to grow your business.
And I'm Frank Ramey. I run a small digital marketing business here in town called Anato. I also own a couple e-commerce businesses myself, and a UT graduate, and I like helping people grow their businesses as well, mainly online and mainly e-commerce. Today, we're going to cover three of the crucial, what we say is the best practices for user experience or UI. You'll see UX, UI is abbreviations, user experience, user interface. So today we're going to cover site experience. So that's essentially how your customer experiences your brand through your virtual storefront. Then we're going to talk about the purchase experience, how a customer experiences the buying process from your e-commerce site. And then the shipping and receiving process, or experience, sorry. That's how a customer experiences your product when they physically get it. It's that, the quote unquote unboxing sort of aspect. How do they feel when they unbox it, but also what comes, before that, even they even get the package, to make sure you're giving them a great seamless experience. So basic UX, UI ground rules, we're just going to cover real quick. So on the right-hand side, you'll see as you act, listen. So the main thing is here, it's easy for us to say, okay, here, somebody says, oh, here's the things you have to do. You have to do, you have to talk to customers this way. You have to use this tone of voice this way, or you have to have your site looking like this or whatnot. What you need to do, though, is understand not one size fits all. What you have to do is you make changes. You actually ask your customers for feedback, and you say, hey, tell me, how was this experience? We changed this method. We changed this out. How was that experience? Main thing there, you want to make sure you have a hypothesis for every user experience, user interface change you make. What impact did you expect? And then what did you get? So essentially, if you're saying, well, hey, I want to increase my conversion rate. I want to increase my average order size. I want to increase my reorder frequency. Having an end goal in mind, having something you can measure against, that's what's going to help make sure you made the right decision. And there's a couple different ways you can solicit feedback. Catherine, if you could take it from there.
Yeah. So this is one of the big areas that I work in is getting feedback. So I made a list of some of the most common places, but this isn't a list where you need to get feedback in all of these places. It's more of a list of knowing what are some of the available options out there and selecting the ones that make the most sense for not only the target group that you're trying to talk to, but also the time and resources you personally have to dedicate to getting feedback. So a couple of the more common ones, you'll sometimes see social media polls, especially if you are in a group with a lot of other entrepreneurs, or if you are just soliciting openly to anybody and everybody, you just want a lot of feedback. So there's not a lot of control unless you're posting a social media feedback in your group yourself to really control that you are reaching the right people. One-on-one interviews are actually one of my most favorite methods, especially when you're first getting started and you're not quite sure where to go. So when I was starting Let Her Speak, for example, I started that through doing one-on-one interviews first. And I ended up interviewing about 25 to 30 women to get a handle on what was it that I needed to build, what was it that it needed to look like, what type of events and things did I need to design to create the type of community I was looking for. Doing a focus group, you can do that as well. That takes a little bit of prep time, and it can take a lot of time to actually put and diffuse all of that information together, but it can be a little bit easier to get people to start riffing off each other of building on ideas. So if you are, for example, trying to develop a brand new product, or you want people to give you feedback on their collective experience with something, that's a really good way to solicit feedback. Online surveys is another great way to get as much feedback as possible from as many people as possible in a short period of time with very limited effort. Getting instant feedback on the website. So you see that all the time of pop-ups and asking you for how many star ratings you would give something. That's usually what culminates into what's called a net promoter score. So whenever anybody's asking for a star rating, or whether they're asking how likely are you to recommend to a friend, and they give you a scale of like 1 to 10, they're usually trying to track and get a pulse on the net promoter score of just trying to take temperature of what's going on. Getting reviews, sending just an email to your previous customers and asking them for feedback, and just an open-ended question. Online forums and groups, I mentioned a little bit, and then real-time site tests with an incentive. So that's if you have the resources, and this is something where it was like a massive change that you are investing a lot of money into your e-commerce site. That's a good way to get some feedback, and especially if you can afford to offer incentives for that. And that could be something as simple as a discount on somebody's purchase with you.
Exactly. And some stuff, some action steps you can take here as you're trying to figure, okay, hey, what things should I be doing? What things should I be changing? Some key steps you can take here. Study the e-commerce sites you love to buy. I really like the site. Which sites actually encourage you to give them money? It's kind of a big piece there to say, what are they doing? And what exactly you can pick them apart and say, what is it about this site that's drawing me all the time? Why am I rebuying from them all the time? Why do I enjoy the experience shopping with them? It's one of those things you can actually, if you like something, you can take it typically, as long as it's not copyright or anything like that, or patent protected, which is like Amazon's one-click buy was for a while. Main thing is here is if you see something, you can figure out how can I use this for myself. But again, go back to that solicit feedback. Always have the end goal in mind and say, okay, what do I want this to do for me? What do I want to do for my business? Always keep that in mind. That makes you, again, keep that continuous feedback loop. Keep testing. Don't just say, oh, we're going to push this out and walk away from it. Don't do that. That's kind of dangerous sometimes. Make sure you talk to your customers. Look at your stats. Look at your numbers. Did your conversion rates increase? Say if you added a new pop-up to get people to sign up for your mailing list, that actually decreased your conversion rates and had a very minimal impact on how many people are actually signing up for your newsletter. A good idea is say, we don't need to do this pop-up anymore. Or it could be alternative, right? You could say, hey, we're doing a pop-up. It didn't hit our conversion rates, and we're getting a lot more newsletter signups. Study it, understand it. Not everybody's going to be exactly the same. Not every customer group is exactly the same. Pay attention to what the numbers tell you, and then also what your customers are telling you. And also understand, a website it's a fluid creature. It's not one of those things like it's like a book where you print it and that's it. Your site, you can change it in an instant sometimes. So always understand that your UX, your UI, your design, it's always a work in progress. It's never gonna be perfect. It's always, let's tweak this, let's change this. But again, always fall back to say, what's my goal with this change? Don't just change things out. Like, oh, I want to change this, color this button, but then not study it. Well, why did you change that color of that button to orange, right? Or to match a background thing. Make sure you have a goal in mind, and then make sure those changes meet that goal. And then, so now we're going to talk about different site experience you can have. So, Catherine.
Yep. So one of the number one things as far as the site experience is concerned is that photos are a huge, huge part of selling online. I mean, one of the biggest parts of it. So making sure that you have high quality photos, and we know this does take some investment, but if you're trying to set up your priorities and you're setting up your e-commerce and you're trying to figure out, well, where could my money be best spent? photos is definitely one of the #1 places to actually invest your money into the website. So we showed a couple examples here. You guys might recognize the good image from Cold Gold and the new line that she just launched. And then in comparison, this was an image that was pulled, I think, from an Etsy shop, not somebody local, but it was an Etsy shop. So you can clearly see, just as somebody who's a consumer, what's going to stand out and really speak to you. You have bright colors, you have really good lighting, you have somebody that's actually wearing the jewelry, so you can envision yourself wearing it as well, versus the other image that's very dark, kind of dreary. It doesn't really pop and doesn't really speak to you. You might not necessarily be able to envision yourself wearing something like that. So those are all things that are going through your customers' heads when they're looking. And more often than not, it's probably things that go through your head when you're looking at other people's websites of places that you like to buy, which is why we recommend that you look at sites you like to purchase from, and then use some of the things that you enjoy about that shopping experience in your own site. Additionally, having a brand guide for your site, especially your site images, is incredibly helpful. It ensures that there is a cohesiveness to the story that you're telling through your website. I put together a few different ideas here, but it's whatever your brand is, it needs to come through in every aspect of how people are interacting with you. So if you're the type that loves really bright pops of color, and or you speak to people who are travelers and outdoorsy, are you showcasing the items in the places that they would find themselves? Are you wanting to bring and humanize your products a little bit more by actually showing a human with the product, whether it's just a hand or it's a face or something else? Are you trying to convey that you are using fresh ingredients, or that you're using holistic or all natural ingredients, and you want to showcase that as a part of your brand image? So there's a lot of different ways you can go. It just depends on who you are. But these are some of the questions to maybe ask yourself. And if you haven't sat down and gone through this yourself, it's a good exercise of, do I show people or don't I show people? What are my brand colors, and what are my consistent brand colors? Do I use backgrounds? Do I want it to be very plain white and I just want the product to speak for itself, like I show in this coffee picture? Or do I want some sort of background or landscape to showing the products in the environment where they would be used? What's your brand personality? Are you fun and funky, kind of like the peaches with the shoes? That's a little different. You don't normally think of fruit with apparel. Or are you trying to be something that's aspirational or inspirational, and it's something that when people see it on Pinterest, they want to put that on their boards because it's so beautiful that they just enjoy it and want to save it? So these are all things that when you're building your e-commerce site and your brand, and you might be converting from selling things maybe on like an Etsy site to actually building your own marketplace on your own website. These are all things to make sure in the transition that you're keeping in mind.
Absolutely. And one aspect of that too, with those product images, it is really tempting to say, well, I did the one, I'm done. That's good enough for me. The issue is, you're in a digital environment with your products, and you're not like a shop where a customer can walk in, pick up and hold, your mug or whatever you're crafting, whatever you're designing. They can't touch it. You're in a virtual environment. So what you need to do is use those photos to help them feel it. One way you can do that is having multiple shots of your products. As Catherine mentioned, having a photo of your product in real life and real use helps people understand, okay, hey, this is how I'm supposed to use this product, or, oh yeah, I could use this then, or I would love to have this as part of that experience. Multiple photos help people understand that. So that's where you want to try to take as many pictures as you can. I recommend at least 3 photos per product on a product page. It's a little harder if you have something, well, I sell this one off or whatnot, and your price point's not super high, as can really afford having multiple photos or having multiple professional photos. But iPhones take great photos nowadays. You can snap a couple, snap 3 of them, different perspectives, different use, in use or whatnot. That can help people understand your product better and feel it better and desire it, and hopefully purchase it. Multiple, end all piece there. And also having multiple colors, say if you sell, in this instance right here, a mug in like 5 or 4 different shades, show those different shades. It's really tempting to say, well, here's my picture of the white one, you can buy it blue, black, and green. Those can be all very different colors to people. And they go, I don't know if I really want, is it a bright green? Is it a Kermit the Frog green? What kind of green are we talking about here? Show those pictures, show those different colors, what people can expect of that too. It's really handy too when you're doing for a user experience aspect is if somebody selects the green, if your CMS, if your website system can actually show, hey, they click green and this configure product, change the green image. Shopify will do that for you. You just have to line it up to the, hey, this is the product, this is the image for this product. Do that. That's really helpful. It takes a little extra effort, yeah, but it really helps people connect and understand of, hey, this is what I'm going to buy. And when they understand this is what I'm going to buy, they trust you a little more, they're more likely to buy from you. So again, having those multiple images and lining those images up with the corresponding color or corresponding type, if it's different, not just color, but if it's different pattern or whatnot, make sure it lines up. Just help people understand exactly what they're going to get. Or exactly is perfect. If it's, everybody's going to be, custom, unique, one-off pieces, get close to say, hey, this is what you should expect. Understand it's not the exact same thing. They're all one-made, handmade, custom bespoke pieces, but this is a simulation. This is close to what you'll get. And of that too, you're making sure you have multiple images and whatnot that help people understand what they're going to get. You also want to make sure you have a cohesive brand experience overall with the storytelling, with your website as well. So there's different aspects you can have there. You have like a seamless experience where, hey, somebody gets to your homepage looks very similar to your product pages, looks very similar to your About Us page, same color scheme, not overwhelming with images. You can see on the right-hand side, the jarring aspect of like, I don't know, what's going on here half the time. But this is like, there's just too much noise. There's too much things going on. There's nothing similar to it. The only thing that's similar there is just straight cacophony of insanity, it seems. But you always want to make sure it's a seamless experience when somebody's shopping with your site, that when they're on your site, when they go from the home page to a product page or a category page, they feel like they're in the same store essentially, right? All the colors match still, or they follow the same theme, maybe not the same colors, but they follow the same theme. The fonts don't jump around all crazy. That they can feel like I'm in the same place I was before. It just adds that level of familiarity. When people are getting when they are familiar with some place, they have trust in that place. They're getting more likely to buy from that place. If it's just changing around all the time, hey, this product page, the different images on this page compared to these other images, there's just different style, different font, different colors. I don't know if I'm in the same place or not. It adds a little bit level of apprehension that people might say, or a shopper might go, I don't know if I want to be here anymore, and they may leave. It's really easy for them to close the tab. So you want to avoid that from happening. So just making sure people know they're in the same place, and also to know what they're supposed to take as a next step as well can be very helpful too. That seamless aspect of they go, I know I'm supposed to click this add now, add to cart button because it's right here. And it's always displayed on the same page of every product page or every category page. It's always the same. I know what to expect, and it feels good to me. Right? It's just kind of that seamless experience instead of like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going to happen. That can be thrilling somewhat, but it can also impact your conversion rates when people go, I don't know what to do, and they leave. I don't like this experience, and they leave. And along with that as well, along with that cohesive experience, in your storytelling, just tell a story with your products when you can. Copywriting counts, copy counts. Mainly, a big chunk of that for most e-commerce sites are your product descriptions. With product descriptions, don't just say, you should buy this, right? You should buy it because it's awesome and I made it. Well, that's wonderful, but it doesn't quite sell it. You do need to sell. It's still advertising, but what people need to know is, what is it am I buying? Why should I care? And what are the benefits of this product, or the benefits of this thing that I'm going to buy from you? And don't just talk about features. Features, people get on this a lot of times, but it's very common to see somebody's like, well, it's this size and this size, or it's this color. Those are features, right? What's the benefit of those things? Oh, it's black and it goes great with any outfit you have. It's gold and it goes well with these color schemes and whatnot. Help people understand, okay, why does this matter to me? What's the benefit of this? Here an example, just kind of, it's a little too, maybe a little simplified to say, hey, what's a good description look like? A good description, you usually want to say like 150 words or so, 150 to 300 words of a product description to say, hey, what is this thing? But don't just fill it full of jargon and just nothing, just putting a bunch of filler in. That's kind of a waste. Help people understand exactly what they're buying and why they should buy it. And exactly what they're getting a hold of. You can use, if you sell something that's got part numbers to it, say if you're reselling or whatnot, use a part number in there, one that can help people understand, recognize that, oh, this is the right thing I meant to buy, but also help from an SEO standpoint, search engine optimization standpoint, where Google's going to crawl that page and says, oh, it said this part number, and somebody looked at this part number in a search query, maybe I should show this product page, or you get indexed for that search query. If you don't ever say a part number in there, Google's not going to know that. It's not going to know, oh, this is part WS251 or whatnot. Or hey, if they're looking for a certain brand you make or whatnot, if you have a brand inside your brand or whatnot, or a certain line item or line, use that line. If somebody's going to type in and look for that for you for specifically, say it, right? You make sure you mention what it is and what you're selling and how it helps them out. And don't just say, hey, you should buy this because you should. Not going to get you a lot of sales. And along with that too, your homepage is usually the most visited page of almost any site. It's true for about 95% of e-commerce stores, it seems, is the homepage where most people hit. With that, it's easy to rely just on images, especially if you're really creative, a very visual product that you want to show off. It's great. Make sure, humans, we're visual creatures. We love seeing images. We love seeing engaging images. But realize that it's not just about the images, right? You need to use text on your homepage to help, help people understand what exactly it is that you sell. What do you do? What do you sell? Can you give them a quick story there to pull them in a little deeper into the site? Instead of just saying, here's a picture of my stuff, and it doesn't really tell the full story, right? What do you make? Why did you make it? Why did you get started? Quickly, right? You want to get to the point very quickly. You don't want to write, a 10,000 page tome on your homepage. Not the right idea. Of that as well, you want to make sure if you want to get search traffic that you use those words that search engine's going to look for as well to say, oh, I should show this site. If you're a local artisan, Knoxville artisan, you only sell in the Knoxville market, make sure you mention Knoxville. Right? Somebody's looking for, if you're a musician or whatnot in Knoxville and you operate in the Knoxville area, say you're a musician in Knoxville, say Knoxville, right? It seems it's easy to overlook, but if that's where 90% of your business comes from, say it. That can help the search engine when somebody types in, musician near me, or your musician near me, they can find your website and quickly, hopefully buy your album from you or book you if you have a booking capability on your website. Make sure you understand what people are searching for and using that typically on your homepage for Google to know what to do with you, and also so your customers or those visitors know what to do with you. How do they interact with you? Why should they interact with you? Why should they buy? And of that, we're going to talk about purchase experience now. So overall with purchase experience, you want to make it easy. If it's painful for a customer to buy from you, that's usually not a good sign. What usually happens is it hurts conversion rates. Conversion rate, if you don't know, is if 100 people hit your site, how many people do the action you want them to take? With e-commerce, it's typically how many people gave you $1, how many people bought from you. So say if 100 people hit your site and one person purchased from you, that's a 1% conversion rate. Not terrible. Your typical conversion rates anywhere from 0.5% to like 2.5%. It depends on your audience and depends on the channels. Some channels you can get 5% conversion rates. If people, it's a really warmed up audience, they're really looking for what you have, you can get a higher conversion rate there. But other than that, though, you want to make it easy for people to shop from you. Some things you can do there, and an aspect here is, can you use a shopping cart on your website that helps you pre-fill data? Somebody can log in, say if they're using Square, they can log in using Square or using Apple Pay or Google Pay or PayPal. That they don't have to keep typing in their credit card information. They don't always have to keep typing in their address. That can make it really easy for folks to say, hey, yeah, I wouldn't buy this right now, right? They're not going to think about it because every time they have to take a step to like, okay, got to get the credit card out. And Do I trust this site to put my credit card information in? Are they really PCI compliant? Certain tools like, Google Pay or PayPal or Apple Pay, again, like those can help smooth over that aspect, that fear factor, that they can trust you more. Like, well, they're not going to get my PayPal information. They're not going to get my Google login information. My credit card's safe. I'm going to interact with this client, this customer, or this site. I don't quite know, but I really like what they have. I really want to buy this. So those things right there can help. But they also can help with pre-filling data as well, that they're not to type in their shipping address and all that jazz. An additional benefit of that too with e-commerce is you're going to get the right address instead of like, somebody's keying in something and they accidentally, they forget to type in their street address even. They just put in their street name. Well, then you ship it out UPS and UPS goes, we don't know what to do this, and they ship it back to you. That's a crappy experience for a customer to have, right? I was expecting to have this, awesome new product. I wanted it in my hands today. Well, I just got a notification from UPS that they couldn't deliver it because it was the wrong address. There's no address. That's terrible, right? So having be able to pre-fill your data, very helpful. So you can see, like in the image right there, there's an example also of address verification systems. They're in fact there. Somebody's typing the address. It's automatically verifying the address. Typing 234. It knows, there's only so many 234, 8 Maple Lanes or whatever in the area or in this country. It'll start pre-filling that data. So then you just click. What that does, it gives them it's address verification, so you don't accidentally ship to the wrong address, or it's partially filled address, and again, it doesn't ship at all. It doesn't deliver at all. Other ways to make it easier, not too many. Sorry for the abbreviation, CTA, so call to actions. You may or may not know what that is. A call to action is essentially, what do you want people to do on this page? You want to make it really easy for people to know what to do next. Do you want them to sign up for your newsletter? Okay, make sure it's clearly displayed. If you really want them on this page to sign up for your newsletter, make sure that's called out. If you want them to visit a product page after reading this blog post, call it out, right? Click this button to go to check out this product, or link to that product. But you don't want to get too many things. It's really tempting to be like on a home page. Okay, we'll read our story about us, and then go to this product page. You should go to this product page, and you should also sign up for a newsletter. That's a lot of things for somebody to know what to do. That's when you need to step back and say, okay, what's going to make the most sense for my business? On this page or this view of my website. What's the thing I want somebody to do right now? What's the one thing? And typically what that's going to revolve around is what's going to get you closer to money, right? What's going to get you closer to them having their wallet out and say, yeah, I want to buy. So that's what, it sounds bad, but that's probably what you always want to aim towards. As it comes to e-commerce and it relates to, people shopping with you, you want them to trust you enough and want your product enough to give you money. So, what are the things you need to do to instill that? If you're talking about if people need to know your story first or understand, like, why is my product different than somebody else's? That's usually going to push them through under that About Us page, right? They need to hear the story. And maybe there's a great video there, maybe there's a great story there. Push them there, and that's going to warm them up and say, I want to buy from these guys. But now on that About Us page, you probably want to push them to your product page, your category pages, right? They read about you, they know about you. What should they do next? Well, they're ready, they're warm, push them to the sell, right? If it's a contact us form, maybe that's when you say, hey, they contact you, but also, hey, would you like to sign up for a newsletter list? And that's an additional button they can check, or box they can check as if another contact form to sign up for your newsletter list as well, right? Because they're not quite sure about you, they want to interact with you. There's a great opportunity right there to say, hey, if you want to keep up communications with us as well, sign up for a newsletter here. Instead of like hitting with a bunch of different things all the time, right? They know what they should be doing, what was expected of them then.
All right. So what we want to talk about really about what happens once they place their order with you. So you manage to work them through the customer journey of finding you, finding a product that they want, putting it in their cart, making it as seamless as possible to check out. But then the work isn't done once the customer actually checks out. So, and this is something Frank was alluding to a little bit though, was what happens after the checkout. So what do you want them to do now? Do you want them to just drop off completely? Probably not. What you probably want them to do is maybe finding out, having them share it on social media to help get the word out. Maybe they're big lovers of your products and they want to brag about this new item that they just purchased from you. Maybe you want them to give you a review. So you want to make sure that you're following up and asking for reviews from them. One thing that we, when Frank and I were putting our heads together about this, that we see people do a lot, but something that you don't really need to stress about right now is, how did you hear about us? So there's a lot of different places where once you check out, they'll ask you the question of, great, how did you hear about us? Sometimes that can be a little bit off-putting for customers. And again, that's where the feedback comes in and talking to people comes in. There might be some people, some of your clients that makes sense. And for some of your businesses that makes sense, but maybe not for everybody. So that's one of the key things to think about, is that it's great to know where people came from. But a lot of times through like search engine results and looking at your Google Analytics and things like that, you're able to somewhat track where people are coming from. But the biggest thing is that you want retention, right? You want people to continuously come back and want to purchase from you over and over and over again. So maybe you want to remind them of who you are, and use something that maybe you have a mascot that's your dog at home, or maybe you have a certain personality and you like to be front and center of your business, which as a maker, especially if you're solo in your business, that's a huge thing to do, because people buy from the person and they buy from the story. They don't necessarily just buy because they see this thing and they think it's great. They truly come back time and time again because they connect with who you are and what your story is. So give them a reminder of who you are and why they are supporting you, and tell them a little bit, give them a story to share. So when they actually get their item in the mail from you, that they have a story that can go along with it. If they're showing it off to a friend and the friend asks where they got it, and that client and customer of yours can then tell all about who you are and where you came from and the cool story behind the item that they bought. So that's more of the important thing to be keeping in mind, are elements like that of post-purchase, immediately post-purchase of the shopping cart is closed, everything's paid. What do you show them next on that shopping experience? And it's more so that than how did you hear about us? So last best practice that we're going to talk about today is in the shipping and receiving experience, because even though you successfully were able to get a customer to purchase something from you, we want to ensure that customer keeps coming back time and time again. And one of the best ways to do that is once your product is in their hands, in their homes. So the brand experience and the packaging, it can be a huge part of that. I mean, there's memes everywhere about the experience of shopping from, somebody who's selling on Etsy versus somebody who's selling on eBay. And that's a big part of the expectations too, that you'll learn from soliciting feedback from previous customers and potential customers that you want to attract, is asking them questions about that experience, asking them what it's like to unwrap something and how excited they are about that. So maybe it might be that you're doing custom packaging using like Sticker Mule or a Pack Lane for their boxes that you can do, or the tape that you use that you put on around it. Or maybe you have a sticker that you put in there and the stickers change every so often. So people want to buy more from you so that they can get whatever your cool new sticker is that they can only get by purchasing from you. But that's the biggest thing, is that especially with people buying predominantly all online now, with very few foot traffic happening at retail locations, that is the greatest way to bring your story into somebody's home, is through the tangible experience that they are having unwrapping what you just sent to them. So that's something I personally, through Let Her Speak, I did with the Pen Pal program that we did, where I actually had physical items that I designed, built, printed, put together, included elements of stickers and experiential elements of what it feels like to unpackage this and learn who the woman is that you would be writing letters to. That all of those little details went into the experience of that package, to make it feel like this woman has already connected with somebody, even though they don't know her and they haven't even written their first letter to her. So those are all things to keep in mind, to include in your brand experience. So not just the website, but is that brand experience from the website being carried through to the actual physical items that people are getting in the mail. And you can do a lot of searches of some ideas if you're looking for some different boxing, but that's also something that you can get feedback on. There are very inexpensive ways of doing this, so don't think that you have to have a ton of cash on hand to afford to do something like that. Sometimes it's the simplest things that can make the greatest impact. Maybe it's that there's some colorful tissue paper that you wrap it in instead of drab, clear plastic. So it can be little things like that that can actually make the biggest difference and really remind people of why they support you. Which brings us to the one of the biggest parts of what we wanted to convey to you is that, yes, being as shoppable as possible is incredibly important to navigate people through their journey of buying from you. But what are you doing to be as reshoppable as possible, especially because it takes a lot of money and a lot of effort to get one person through your metaphorical door to your virtual e-commerce site. And it's a lot easier to try to retain them, and a lot more cost effective to try to retain them. So keeping in mind what that experience is like to make people wanting to buy from you time and time again, and reminding them why they shop with you in the first place. So this goes a little bit into your marketing strategy then. And there's no one channel that is the channel to use. It's really a cohesive element of a symphony of all of these different marketing channels all working together to help you share your story and to help you get in front of the people that are most likely to actually want to interact with you. So social media, of course, is up there. Everybody has a favorite social media platform and utilize it in different ways. If you're somebody that really likes to show the process behind what you're making, then utilizing stories or reels on Instagram makes a lot of sense. Maybe you're someone that likes to really share a day in the life of what it's like to be me and making things. And maybe you want to do some live sessions every so often. But those are all elements that makes you a real human being behind this brand, which is very, very powerful and allows you to connect with people in a truly different way. If you have an email newsletter and it's not necessarily just giving people freebies or discounts or letting them know about the newest products before they actually launch, which is great. But also, are there any other pieces of valuable information that you can keep in there? Maybe it's you're somebody who also loves to inspire and motivate people, especially right now. And so people use your newsletters for motivation and inspiration, as well as following along with your story of what's the work that you're working on right now. Maybe you have a new line that you're launching. Doing online workshops sometimes, and just having a couple people that can become your greatest cheerleaders that engage with you on these workshops or engage with you on these webinars, and inviting them in to learn from you or to have a conversation with you, and then they go out and tell others about you. That can be a very powerful thing to get the word out. But it's wherever your customers are. So that again goes back to the feedback of, do you know where your customers play? Do you know where they go to? Do you know how they get their information? Is it through word of mouth, or is it through doing a Google search? And what are they searching for? It's all of those different elements that all play together. And lastly, the fulfillment matters a lot. And so that's the last piece of the puzzle, is that people trust you, they ordered from you, they are expecting this item. what do you do on the back end to ensure as good of a customer experience as possible? So emailing them and letting them know when their product has shipped and giving them either the tracking code, especially if it's something that's a high priced item that people would want to make sure that they can track where it is. But also giving them an average day to receive at least. I know with some issues that are going on with the USPS right now, that's something that a lot of people are a little worried about. So making sure that they know what the expectation is of how long to be looking for that item, and at least having that tracking information can be really helpful. You can automate the order confirmation email. So that's something that you don't have to constantly be tracking, but it's something that can be built a part of the back end experience if you're using like Shopify or something like that. And the other element though too, of course, is the packaging itself, keeping your item safe so that it doesn't arrive broken or in pieces. And if it does, being very clear on your website of what that customer should expect in your experience of servicing that issue to them. And also clear expectations of what your return policy is and what that process looks like so that it's as seamless as possible for the customer. And it also helps you know how to be putting those products maybe back on the marketplace if that's something that needs to happen. And have a fulfillment process that makes it easy for you to be fast and consistent in your shipping. So know what your lead time or your production times are, especially if it's a custom piece that people are ordering that you know exactly from the time an order is received until you actually have it shipped out, packaged, ready to go. What does that time look like? And you might need to make adjustments, especially during the holiday season of making sure people know, due to the holiday season, lead times are a little bit longer. You have to get orders to me by X date if you want it to arrive before Christmas. So things like that. And then software to automate wherever you possibly can. So those are things like printing the shipping labels for you, or sending out those automated emails when you click that something has shipped out, and then it gets all sent out to the customer with the shipping confirmation, the tracking number, all of that. So wherever you can allow technology to do a lot of the handling for you, all the better. So to summarize, the biggest takeaway, the biggest thing that Frank and I wanted to take from this, there's three big things. So number one is, above and beyond, have good images when you're developing or reviewing your e-commerce site, making sure that people can see and understand, vision what that product looks like in real life. I mean, one of the biggest things in sales of any type is that you're trying to be easy to do business with, and you're trying to remove as many barriers as possible for that customer to say yes to you. And one of the easiest ways to do that is for them to easily see and understand and value what it is that you're offering to them. The other part of that is having good copy, of expecting all of the different questions that they might be asking, and putting that in the copy where they don't even have to ask those, because you have it right there of, this is exactly what the dimensions are. It works with X size things. If it's like a piece that goes with something else, explaining to them what all the materials are that are, and helping them envision how they might use it. So those are all barriers that would make someone possibly say, I'll put it in my cart, but more than likely they're not going to come back to it. And it removes that barrier of, I know exactly what I'm buying, exactly what to be expecting. I am good to go. I'm going to go ahead and buy this. And lastly, building into your process that continuous feedback loop. So while you might start off with doing some deep dive interviews with some current customers of yours and some people that you potentially would love to work with, but building into your system of always having a way that you are getting feedback from people, whether it's a survey that goes out after the shopping experience, whether it's in your newsletter that you are asking for open-ended feedback, or you reach out to a few of your best customers and ask them to have a conversation as a group on like a Zoom call, having a poll on social media, or doing a little bit of a pulse on like an Instagram story. You can easily do polls on there as well. But there should be ways in which you're continuously getting as much feedback as you can, while still, obviously, it takes a lot of time sometimes to do that. So while keeping in mind that you're trying to run a business at the same time, but always having your ear to the ground whenever possible. The other part of this that we have developed for you is actually having a set of resources that you can use to do your own homework after this. So we didn't want to just give you all this information and then you don't have anything to do with it, or you're not quite sure how to apply it all. So what we've developed, and it's here on the makercity.org, and you go to Summit Tips and then to the session resources, is the As Shoppable as Possible worksheet. And so I'm going to bring it up. Oh, sorry, it's down right here. Clicked on the wrong thing. There you go. So this is the worksheet that Frank and I have put together. And Frank, once it comes up here, if you want to walk people through really quickly.
Sure. And I posted it in the chat as well if you guys want to click on that. It's just a direct link to the worksheet. So yeah, you guys get homework. Sorry, but we want to make sure to give you something that's a good actionable takeaway, something you can take away at the end of today, at the end of our session. Say, okay, I did these things, and how can I improve? So it's breaking down in a couple different sections. It's not just a one sheet thing, so apologize. It's actually maybe a little bit of work, but not too bad. So section 1 is about auditing others. So again, we talked about at the top of the presentation to say, hey, look at who do you shop with now online that you really like that experience. So you want to review 3 sites, 3 other e-commerce sites, to evaluate things that are working well with them and what is not working well. So again, you're going to hit 3 things that you like about them. What's user experience, user interaction, why do you like it? And then also what are the 3 things you didn't like? So you want to talk about that aspect and say, okay, what was jarring, what was uncomfortable, what did you not like? Sometimes you can learn from others' mistakes and actually make them your strengths, right? In section 2, so you got 3 sites through there, so each site's got its own thing to do. Section 2, that's an audit of yourself, know thyself, right? So this is kind of a checklist to say, hey, where your site needs to improve, or hey, are you actually really doing great already? So we broke this into 2 different sections. One is the have-to-haves, and one's the nice-to-haves. The have-to-haves is the top section right there, so it's a bunch of check marks. So it ranges anywhere from product images for your products, professional product images, not those dark blurry things. Making sure you're hitting all the things that customers might care about. Making sure your point of sale is working well. Make sure you're collecting taxes correctly. You're calculating shipping correctly. Just want to say, well, I'm not sure. That's a good chance to kind of dig in and say, yeah, this seems to work and seems to make sense. The nice to haves are the things that are like, they do matter, but in all things, there are limited resources, right? You've got a limited amount of time, limited amount of money. So the tops, the have-to-haves, they're going to help you really make the biggest difference. Whereas the nice-to-haves, if you have the resources, you have the time, build them out. Do these things, and they'll help make you stronger. They should help conversion rates or help just make you a better business overall as well.
This is all up there. It's fairly self-explanatory, but on our presentation here, you have our email addresses if you have any questions for either of us. But I'm actually going to turn off my sharing so we can answer 1 or 2 questions really quick.